screen starts glowing, and the film starts rolling. You wanna be knowing what you might be in for. So give the show a listen and find out what you're missing. Put yourself in position for the easy good score.
Hey everybody, and welcome to The Goods, a film podcast. This is episode 203, and I am Brian. You there, Dan?
Hey Brian, I'm here.
It's feeling like spring out there. I guess, according to the calendar, it's not spring yet, but it's starting to feel as though winter has moved on.
Right. So, I was talking about this, I don't know if you were there, but with my brother Will, basically, like, the same day that the clock changed, or like maybe one day later, the temperature went up like 20 degrees. So all of a sudden, instead of the sun setting at 5:45 p.m. and it being 40 degrees outside, the sun was setting almost at 7 o'clock, and it was like 60 degrees outside. So it really did feel like we just went straight from winter to spring in like 3 days.
And this was a more wintry winter than we sometimes get in this area. There was actually some like prolonged snow that stayed on the ground because the temperature kept low. And last time we wrapped up a theme month here on The Goods, a film podcast. So now we are no longer trammeled. We are no longer fettered by a requirement of a genre or a theme. We could do anything. The sky's the limit. So I picked two movies that have some similarities, some connective tissue between them, but we'll talk about how much. And they are the brand spanking new, still in theaters, Mickey 17 from Korean director Bong Joon-ho, and from 10 years ago in 2015, the made-for-TV Nickelodeon movie Splitting Atom. Did you get a chance to watch both of these?
I did. Well, you know that I saw Mickey 17 because we saw it together, Brian. That was fun.
That's right. Rare that I pick, like, bleeding-edge new movie. It's just absolutely fresh in its cinematic run. But I did that this time, and we did go over to the Cineplex, and we watched Mickey 17 with immersive D-Box motion effects, which is basically they put a big expensive subwoofer under your chair and it vibrates. It wasn't quite as intense as like Star Tours or Soarin' over California, where you got the 6 degrees of movement. It's really is you just rattling in place.
Well, there's a little more to it than that. So it's Cinemark is the theater that has the D-Box technology. And so the theater we went to has like 2 rows of these seats that are D-Box. If you don't pick one of those seats, you're just in a normal comfy seat. And it was like on an XD screen, which I think is the Cinemark off-brand version of IMAX. And I liked that it did more than just vibrate, because it kind of tilts like just a little, like enough.
Just a little. Yeah, there was some like actuator servo type movements. Not a ton of it, but a little bit. So like when the camera would pan, you'd kind of like feel that you were kind of like forced turned one way. I was laughing when that would happen.
Yeah.
So it was subtle because it also needs to at the same time be a lazy boy recliner.
Right, exactly. It needs to be comfortable, but also needs to be immersive. It needs to make you feel like you're just floating in air, but also like you're in the movie.
And your brother Will came with us?
That's right. He's been on the pod, of course, several times. We're going to have him on again. I don't know when, maybe later this spring or early this summer. And we have an epic one planned the next time he appears. But I rode with Will to the theater and back. And one thing that we brainstormed is what would be the most ridiculous movie to get the D-Box vibrating servo action. And the funniest one we could come up with would be 12 Angry Men. Like when they shout at each other, it starts vibrating. And when like he pulls out the knife and slams it on the table, you get one. But I don't know. What do you think? What would be the best and silliest movie to get the D-Box treatment?
September by Woody Allen. Not a lot of shaking going on there.
Yeah.
I like 12 Angry Men, though. It's like pound on the table. And yeah, so Mickey 17 came on my radar because it was the latest Bong Joon-ho was part of it. And I knew it was going to be a space movie. Robert Pattinson as some kind of astronaut. That's what I saw in the teaser trailer. And I messaged Dan a few months ago, what do you know about this astronaut movie with Robert Pattinson? I believe this is the first film from Bong Joon-ho since Parasite. Is that correct?
It is. Yep. So much anticipated. It was also delayed multiple times. And there's this thing in film online discourse. The idea is that people talk about these movies for years, or like even just in the build up to it, but you only ever get one promo image. So like whenever you Google this movie and you look at news articles about it, it's always got the same exact promo image. And that's Mickey 17 is like a Hall of Fame entry because there's this one shot of Robert Pattinson coming out of the clone machine that we're going to talk about that basically since it got announced, which was like, I don't know, 2020, 2021, till now, that we've just had this one promo image of it. So another good one was Killers of the Flower Moon, the Martin Scorsese one that was in the works for a few years. Only ever had one image associated with it.
And that was Leo scowling, right? I was going to say The Whale.
The Whale has one of like a kind of a close-up on Brendan Fraser in a fat suit with his eyes bugging out a little.
And you said clones. That's the secret sauce with these movies. We get cloning machines, the capability to make copies of a person. So I thought these two would go together. You know, sometimes we do theme months. Sometimes we do violent end pairings where you put two movies with similar premises together, except one takes the theme in a darker direction. And I wanted to see if maybe this would qualify for that. And in some ways it does. One is definitely a hard R, and the other is a Nickelodeon TV movie. But I'd say they both end in reasonably happy places.
Yeah, they both have happy endings. It's not like... Actually, Parasite was the first one we did, right?
Yeah, much happier ending than Parasite.
Yeah. And the comparison for that was... What was that one called? Something Avenue?
Yeah, it was called It Happened on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. And so, like, in Parasite, it ends with all the characters getting skewered and the dad getting locked into the basement. Sorry for spoiling Parasite just now. But meanwhile, It Happened on Fifth Avenue ends with everybody singing carols together, Christmas carols, and being happy. But both of them have the same basic premise of people breaking in and pretending to live in rich people's houses or something like that, right?
Exactly, yeah. A poor family secretly living inside a rich person's house. I just took a deep dive through the history of our transcript and was looking back through old episodes. And we'll talk more about it when we do our retrospective soon on episodes 151 through 200. But I really feel like time has sped up for me as we've gone along. Like, the first 50 episodes seemed like a really long chunk of time. And then these last 50 episodes, it seems like no time passed at all. So, I don't know if you've had that experience.
Oh, totally. Like, episodes that in my head feel like, okay, that was like middle, second half of our run. It's like, oh, wait, that was episode 33 out of 200, you know?
Yeah. I think it was 2020. I definitely experienced, it seemed like the world went slower for a little while then when everything was locked down. But let's talk these movies. So the way that Splitting Adam came across my awareness, my horizon, is on Facebook. I think I mentioned that last time, that it was recommended on, like, I don't remember if it was Incredibly Strange Films, which is a group that I'm actually part of. Like 80% of what's on Facebook now is stuff you're not associated with in any way. It just shows it to you, which is annoying. But the power is outside of our hands. Ours not to wonder why.
I want to point out, I've brought up that my algorithm has decided that what I want to see is attractive female actors. That's been toned down recently. Still present, though. But Gavin referenced this. Well, our friend Gavin, who sometimes appears on the pod, referenced this in another Discord. It's like someone brought up an attractive actress, and Gavin said, "Wait, have you been on Dan's Facebook algorithm?" So it's notorious now. Gotta be careful what you talk about on the airwaves.
Be careful what you share. Loose lips sink ships.
Yeah.
Or as they say in Chuck E. Cheese in the Galaxy 5000, loose beaks cause leaks, which sink ships. Because Helen Henny says, I don't have lips. But I looked up this one, Splitting Atom. Great title, by the way. And the, image associated with this one got across the point that, okay, we've got many atoms at once. And it's this little blonde middle school boy, a la Jansen Panettiere. Although his name is Jace Norman. So apparently Jace Norman was the star of Dan Schneider's show Henry Danger from 2014 to 2020. So he's in that stable of actors.
I will remind audiences the Jansen Panettiere saga. So way back, I think it was episode 25, because I remember it being right before our very first retrospective. We watched a film called The Last Day of Summer, which actually, it has a decent amount in common with this film, both in tone and in that it's like a sci-fi premise to illuminate real thematic issues for teenagers, Maybe sci-fi isn't quite right. Maybe you'd say speculative.
Yeah, or fantasy or something. I think sci-fi qualifies.
I think you're right. In this case, it does.
He uses a machine.
Yeah. But anyways, so we were not fond of Jansen Panettiere's performance. And we decided that the metric by which we measure annoying tween actors is the unit is a Jansen. If you're a full Jansen, that's a 100% Jansen, then you're in bad shape. And so this was a fun running joke. And then we got the tragic news that Jansen Panettiere died at age 30 or something. And, you don't know for sure. When you hear this, you figure it's either died by suicide or died from drug overdose. And so we felt horrible, especially because I don't know if Will ever shared this on air, but Will requested a cameo on the Cameo site for Jansen Panettiere for me as a gag gift for me at one point. It wouldn't have been a gag gift. It would have been a great gift. And he said, my brother likes talking about you on his podcast. Here's the feed to his podcast. And so okay, now if he's heard us making fun of him and then we hear a month later that he died by suicide, that's a lot of weight on a man, Brian? But
yeah, exactly. That was a big moment, a milestone in our podcast history, because not too long after that, Tommy from Power Rangers also died. So we've got a body count. We got to be careful, like you said, about what we say on the air.
And it turned out that Jansen Panettiere, R.I.P., he died from natural causes, although vague enough that you wonder if it was exacerbated by drug use or something like that. But anyways, so the shadow of Jansen hung over this for me. But it is not the only connection to past films that we've talked about. I actually found several connections, Brian. I'm curious how many of them you spotted.
Wow. Yeah, I want to talk about that. I was definitely thinking Last Day of Summer. Takes place during the summer, and it's got, the kid doesn't look too different, and he's just all over this film because the whole storyline is there are many of him. I don't know if he quite has the range to be so present in this film.
No, but he is a very experienced actor who has been the star of a sitcom. So he has the reps and the chops to do a movie like this. Whereas in the example of Jansen Panettiere and Last Day of Summer, I think they were here's a famous kind of good looking kid who's related to a celebrity. Let's make him a star, even though he had very minimal experience leading into that. And I think that showed. I do kind of agree with you that this guy's not a home run. But if we were to have not retired the Jansen Panettiere annoying kid actor scale, I wouldn't mark him a full Jansen.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get back to this when we rate, because I was feeling it more and less as the movie went. It was there were highlights and lowlights. So I want to talk Splitting Atom first. So let's roll into Splitting Atom. But this premiered February 16th, 2015 on Nickelodeon. And as you said, it's one of these young teen shows, TV movies that revolve around a sci-fi premise. I was also thinking about the DCOM Minutemen, where they have a time machine. Last Day of Summer, obviously. Nickelodeon had a theatrical release one called Clock Stoppers. I'm sure I've name dropped before, where they had a watch that could stop time.
Well, Brian, also Snow Day. That was, I think, their first theatrical film was Snow Day. We talked about that. I'm a big Snow Day fan. You know that.
That's true. Does not have a sci-fi premise, as far as I know.
Right.
But it is a Nickelodeon film. We love a DCOM. We love a Nickelodeon original feature.
But yeah, I think the DCOM comparison is apt. And I think I was kind of surprised, honestly. I didn't even know Nickelodeon was still making their live action films in 2015. But you still see what I kind of see is like the staking their different grounds, where Nickelodeon is more broad and comic and slapsticky than the DCOMs are.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. While reading about this on Wikipedia, Splitting Atom, it had a See Also section at the bottom, and it recommended the film's Multiplicity from 1996, which is, both of these are about a guy who clones himself and the travails and tribulations of that. But Multiplicity stars Michael Keaton and Andy McDowell. So I might have to track that one down. The other recommendation was called The Other Me, which was a DCOM from the year 2000.
I didn't know they had a clone one for DCOMs.
No, me neither. I know there's a Jimmy Neutron episode with clones. My touch point is always Calvin and Hobbes. There were several storylines in Calvin and Hobbes where he would use his like multi-purpose cardboard box sci-fi machine for different purposes. And a couple times he made copies of himself. And his thought process was always like, oh, I'll delegate. I'll have these clones do things for me, basically be my servants so that I can get a lot more done, be in multiple places at once. But if they're copies of him, they just are him. And if he's got this selfish mindset, like what sets Calvin Prime above the other Calvins? There's really no differentiation. And so if they're all selfish, they're all going to be butting up against each other.
I actually thought Splitting Atom tackled that problem in a way I understood better than Mickey 17.
I agree. Yes. And so another example is Gravity Falls. I was thinking of the Gravity Falls episode where Dipper makes copies. And in that case, he's like very disciplined about it. They like have, a blueprint of, okay, this is your responsibility. Everybody, the delineation is clear enough that everybody knows what they're doing. And at least for a while, their arrangement works until it doesn't. Jace Norman was 14 years old, it looks like, when he made this film. The next year, after Splitting Atom, he starred in another Nickelodeon movie called Rufus, where he played a dog turned into a human.
He's had a pretty busy career. I was reading a little bit about our buddy Jace. He was a voice actor in a film called Bigfoot Family. Have you heard of this Bigfoot Family, Brian?
I've not heard of this one.
So he's one of the voices in Bigfoot Family.
I think we need a Bigfoot month.
Maybe. But there's a few others that he's been in. Like the Henry Danger movie just came out this year, which confused me because I thought that show was older, and he's a little bit older now. He's in his 20s now, so I was a little confused. It's like a legacy sequel or legacy remake type thing, or
I guess maybe he's passing the torch.
I don't know.
But I was thinking, Dan, we shouldn't be Dan and Brian anymore. We should be Jason Jansen.
Who would you be?
Oh, I thought Jansen had 2 syllables, so I would take Jansen.
I wanted to be Jansen. Man.
Oh man, okay? Well, we could do that. I'll try this with single syllable name for a while.
No, I could be Jace. Whatever. It's all good.
We don't have to stick with this.
Or what if we each adopted, not to spoil what's about to come, but one of the Adams that we get.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. The plot of this movie, and I don't want to bog everybody down too much in details. Both of these are like plot heavy, but I feel like we can get the flavor across with less detail, but we'll see if we're able to follow through with that. Basically, he's this busy kid. That's how it's set up. He seems to work like 3 jobs. So he's got a dog walking service, he's got a lawn mowing service, and then he also works like as a pool cleaner at a water park.
I wasn't working that much when I was, however old he is, 14 or whatever.
Yeah, I want to see his Google Calendar.
Right.
It's got to be full.
Trying to get that CV built before he even enters sophomore year.
He also has to chaperone his younger sister around. Take her places, take her to activities.
So I was confused by this. We don't need to debate the intricacies of this plot because there's a lot of stuff it just kind of hand waves away. Why is he watching his sister? I don't know. But it seems like his parents are on vacation, so is he just doing it for the vacation? Or is he always bringing his sister to karate and stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, that was unclear because most of the arc of this story, the parents go away. But yeah, I got the impression he takes care of her a lot, even in the normal rest of the year, but who knows? We can't look beyond the parameters of the film, much as we might like to.
The extended Adam universe.
We can write fan fiction. Adam has 2 friends. One is a cool black friend named Sheldon, and then the other one is like a nerdy tech friend named Danny, who is there mostly at the beginning and at the end, and you know that he's the nerd because he wears a periodic table shirt like Taylor Swift.
Is that in the You Belong With Me that's like for one shot she has the periodic, or is it something else where she has
Yeah, that's right. You Belong With Me. You pointed it out when we talked about that episode. And these 2 friends help Adam. They're like his life coaches. Because Adam's got a crush on this girl named Lori who works at the water park as like one of the high muckety-mucks among the lifeguards. There's like a lifeguard hierarchy and she's one of the bigwigs. And the 2 friends are like coaching him. How is he going to court Lori?
By the way, Lori, credited as Isabella Moreno. But
did you recognize this actress?
I did, yeah. Did you?
I did not.
So she has since changed her professional name to Isabella Merced. And she was in that Let It Snow movie that we watched. And she's been in a bunch of stuff recently. She was in Madam Web. She was in the Alien movie that came out last year. And she was Dora in the live-action Dora movie.
Oh, man. I thought she did look kind of familiar. The pieces are falling into place now. The other head lifeguard is named Vance Handsome.
I like this because you know who he is. Oh, he's the D-bag bully, of course.
I love the name Vance Handsome. It's up there with Meat, who is a character, the bully character in Last Day of Summer.
We should do a character name Hall of Fame someday, Brian.
It's a good idea.
Top 5 character names.
Yeah, and you said it. Adam's parents go away for a week. I think it's a week. And so their uncle comes in his 80s rocker van to oversee the kids. And the uncle is a magician. His handle is Magic Mitch.
Yeah, he's basically Job as played by Sean William Scott, but like a little bit more likable than that might suggest. Like, he actually, the energy made me think of the janitor in Ned's Declassified, where you know that he's got more going on in his life, but you're just kind of getting the fringes of it here.
I was thinking of Joey from Full House.
Oh, I can see that too, yeah.
And Mitch has a tanning bed in the back of his van, and he waves down Adam and his friends. Is like, help me get this tanning bed out of the back of the van. And they cart it into the garage, this old heavy machine thing that you can lie in. And then pretty soon, this is our I don't know, it's not quite a MacGuffin because they're not looking for it, but it's like a central device that enables the plot. And Adam is looking for the sister in the garage at night, and it's dark, and she jumps out and scares him, and he falls into this plot device tanning bed.
That's like a horror scene.
Yeah, I mean, the production design pretty good overall. For a TV film, they made the garage spooky. They lit it so it was dark.
It was all right. I wasn't that blown away, but yeah.
No. But okay, you singled it out. You said it's a horror scene.
Well, just like, I'm just thinking more when he gets caught in like the device and he's like trying to get out and like compressed in essentially a coffin shaped thing. I thought that was at least like a horror scenario, at least.
Yeah.
Like if you were going to do a violent ends, like in another movie, this is where he turns into the Fly or something like that.
And there's some time in between. It doesn't happen right away. It's like he gets out of the machine and then he goes upstairs, goes to bed, or he like faints or something. And then the next shot is he's waking up and he's next to a clone of himself.
This, on the other hand, was a good effect. I never saw the seams. I do not know how they did it. I don't know about you, Brian.
They did a good job. It's somewhat limited in what he's able to do. Like, they don't do a lot of the clones grappling with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they kind of stay at their own parts of the screen. But as far as, the separation between them is never... You don't see the seams, as you said. And the timing is good. Like, the way the performance is, the way they seem to talk to each other is believable.
And one thing I noticed early in the film, and I thought maintained pretty well, is this is like a very well edited film. Like, it is edited for pace, and it'll do stuff that's not easy to do. He'll like slam a door, and almost seamlessly he'll be in like a totally different building. It's like doing like a time cut, setting cut with like an intentional like transition as the action between them. It's not like they just had footage and somebody in post did it. It was like this was planned with the editing in mind. And there's multiple instances of that. And it does stuff like the camera zooms through a window. And so it's very clearly a seamless connection between a real outside shot and a real inside shot. But someone did like the digital effects and editing to like show the camera go through a closed glass window. And I was actually kind of impressed. It's like they've come a long way from like bad TV movie editing, you know?
That is pretty cool. We, in our spectacular, we should give like a special achievement award to the Splitting Atom editor. And this first clone, what we find pretty soon is that the clones have different personalities. So not so much that they're all identical, but befitting the title, they're like fragments of Adam. They're parts of his personality. I think there's a Star Trek episode that does this. I think this happens in the Jimmy Neutron episode, that they're parts of who he is. And so they're like concentrated just that element of the personality. Although number 2 was my least favorite because he was the least distinct. Like, I think his shtick, he's just like fastidious about carrying out Adam's responsibilities. And they all have different hairstyles. Number 2 is like Jace Norman if he passed a comb through his hair once. Like slightly more combed hair than what he normally has.
Right. Yeah, Clone 2 is there mainly to be like the default clone. It's like to talk about how do clone physics work? What are the clone rules? You are representative of the clones. But he does some stuff, but I kind of agree that like he's the one clone where there's not like a purpose for this clone in like exploring the different aspects of Adam. Because one thing I think this movie actually does well, one thing I like about it, is that it treads just the right line of like being a silly clone adventure very literally. And like you can just say, hey, this is a silly adventure of a guy getting a clone. But it is also like very clearly a metaphor for like figuring out your identity and like how you present yourself out to the world and how you figure out what's the best version of yourself, particularly when you're a teen and you're trying to impress a crush and trying to know like, how do I develop my social identity in this exterior world? And so like all of the different clones kind of represent not necessarily archetypes of like teenagehood or male adolescence, but like different kind of flavors of a personality that are all within Adam. And that's like the theme of the movie is figuring out what that is and like how you kind of embrace all of those different parts, you know?
Yeah, it's different ways you could lean, different ways you could try to live your life, different skills you could develop on the skill tree. So actually, I was thinking about when we did Time Loop Month, like all the Time Loop movies, but also Tokimeki Memorial. It's like, what are you devoting your week to on your skill tree in your little calendar book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, number 2 is the less crazy, the less extreme clone, and he's kind of the clone you can talk to plan things out. So Adam goes off with his 2 friends to talk about, well, I can make clones now. I can copy myself, so what should I do with this? And they hold like a summit. And when they come back, number 2 has made another clone. Although if a copy makes a copy, it like breaks down. It's like inferior. And so now you have caveman Jace.
Right, idiot. He gets like a unibrow for some reason. I don't know why, but like lower intelligent, lower evolved species. This was pretty funny. It made me wonder how far you could push it. Like, invent a new species of human that's like a degenerate sub-Homo sapiens.
Morlock Adam.
Like, is it altering DNA when you kind of degrade across clone iterations?
It's like making copies of a VHS.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
And they also determined that, like, the way that the clone comes out is influenced by what Adam is thinking about when he goes into the machine. It's like he can consciously decide, okay, this clone is going to emphasize this aspect. So he has a little bit of control over it.
I wanted this to have more definition. Like, you got to bring a prop with you to represent it or something like that.
Dress for the job you want.
Yeah, clothes or something, right.
Right. And the discussion is, well, what would Lori like best? Which version of me does Lori want? And so they make a couple versions to test this out, and they make a party Adam and a sensitive Adam. And, like, deploy them to the water park. Well, I guess it's not the water park at first, because she's, like, at a mall or something. But they're both gonna, like, make moves on Lori and see how it works out. So there's, like, an experimental stage. And the party one is just, like, totally crazy. Actually runs around with a lampshade on his head most of the time. So that's the one that you just wouldn't even need special effects for. It's just, like, put some other guy with a lampshade on his head and have him run around.
And I bet that's a lot of how they did this is like they must have had some double who looks kind of like him. And so like when you kind of see the profile of someone in the same shot, yeah. And then you're right, exactly. The party one, you could just do that. Just take the double, put the lampshade on his head.
And sensitive Adam, I thought acted too much like number 2, or number 2 acted too much like him. They both kind of make the same effete face. Sensitive has like a rat tail, but he also reminded me of in Bedazzled, one of the Brendan Fraser personas. That was another movie I was thinking of where he keeps trying out different versions of his personality. And remember, he had the sensitive one where he's like, I was on my way here to serve you a picnic, but I got distracted when I looked at the sunset and I just had to stop and weep.
Yeah. So the rat tail really threw me off, by the way. Not a good looking hairdo. Not befitting Jace, Adam here. If you're out there listening to this and you're like, you know what? I think I should probably get a rat tail. Stop yourself. Don't do it. You're not going to look better with the rat tail. But I think what it was going for is like a Fabio haircut. Like a long flowing romance novel cover, you know? But like the worst possible version of that.
And meanwhile, Adam Prime, the first Adam, he's kind of surveilling what the clones are doing. Meanwhile, he's carrying on with his work duties. Number 2 is like taking the sister around to her obligations. And as they're living their clone lives, they figure out some clone rules. One of which is that they experience shared pain. So if one of them gets hurt, they all feel it. which I thought was kind of strange.
I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. Is there any other like shared nerve connections? I don't know. That's the only one we feel. But it is a pretty good Chekhov's gun. You know it's going to get set up to be used for some punchlines down the line.
Maybe literal punchlines, yes. And yeah, it's interesting. The plot that would be going on, whether or not there were clones, like what's happened in the real world, is that Adam and Laurie and Sheldon and Vance Handsome all work at this water park / amusement park place called Crash and Splash. I guess this was really filmed at a park called Cultus Lake Water Park in British Columbia, Canada. And the park is struggling financially, so they need to have like a big successful promotional event that will put them back in the black. The plan is it's going to be called Splashapalooza and feature Vance's band. So Dan, this is one of those water park accounting movies.
My favorite subgenre. We do have a lot of moving parts here. It's like it's throwing the whole gang together. It's a clone movie, sure. Also, he's got to impress the girl, the crush. Yeah, it's a tween movie. And there's a bully. Of course there's a bully. But wait, also, they've got to save the park. We got to get the gang together, too. And we got to raise the big funds. It's like, what's the Jim Varney character?
Ernest?
Yeah, Ernest goes to camp. Don't they have to save the camp in that one?
Right.
And it keeps piling on. A little chaotic.
How are you feeling now that we've got, 5 Adams at this point, and he's very present? How are you feeling about Jace and his comic stylings?
So I think Jace is better at sitcom-y stuff than making me actually care about the character. I mean, he's very broad, but like you can tell that, you know, he got coached and has at least a little bit of natural instincts on like how to be funny. Like he does faces. He's got a couple of okay line readings and like double takes and reaction faces. Anytime he had to sell me on a feeling, whichever clone it was, I wasn't buying it. But it's so shenanigan heavy that even though he's in everything, it's more about the shenanigans than him. I don't know. It wasn't bothering me too much. I wasn't totally out. But what about you?
Well, that's good. I found him pretty annoying.
Yeah.
A lot of this movie is like one of the rougher around the edges clones runs through and causes a problem, be it the caveman one or the party one. And then you've got the sensitive one or number 2 who is making like a put upon face. So it's like you cut to, you've got like a close up on like a stupid face or a brash face, and then cut to an inconvenienced face. And there's a lot of running around. I liked this water park. That's what kept saving it for me, was I liked this setting. I wanted to go to this water park. Both the party Adam and the sensitive Adam managed to offend Laurie in their own special ways. And so then Adam Prime has to step in and apologize, and he like is able to reset that to a good place. And of course, the moral is you need to be yourself, as Robin Williams says in Aladdin.
Right.
It's like that's the normal Adam is going to be the one who carries the day in the end. But that's not the conclusion that he comes to at this Act 2 point here, because he concludes, oh, the only Adam who is going to win over Laurie is going to be some kind of perfect Adam. And so he gets into the machine with that thought. Oh, okay, make the perfect Adam. And perfect Adam has like slicked back hair and a dress shirt. And now, even more than Vance Handsome, he's going to kind of be the antagonist. This perfect paragon Adam.
I really liked this, by the way. So first of all, it builds the metaphor. It's like it would be one thing to just have the different clones and say, you're the sum of all your various personalities and you need to be yourself and accept that you're all of these different things. But then it's like adding on this other layer of like,
it's like, what if you remove the bad elements?
Exactly. Like that's no more you than any of the clones are, you know? So I thought this was good. Also, I liked that the D-bag villain got shifted into like the doofy. He ended up, spoiler, he's basically ends up being like a doofy sidekick almost for like the final act of this film. Because now that's much better. You're facing a clone of a version of yourself that's the quote unquote perfect version of you, and you need to figure out how you beat the perfect version of you. That's genius. I like this.
I liked it too. And so Perfect goes to work and like immediately is making big gains for Adam. It's like he jumps into the pool and saves somebody who's drowning. And remember, Adam was like a cleaner and not actually a lifeguard. And then he like scares Vance away because he rounds up all the other clones, doesn't tell Adam Prime about this, but like ambushes Vance with all the clones at once. And it's like Sid in Toy Story.
It's the same beat. Yeah.
Shatter his worldview and send him screaming into the night. And he gets a date with Lori. He goes up to Lori, says, let's go out. You just saw me save somebody in the pool, and gets the date. But then, like, the clones reconvene, and Adam Prime is like, oh, perfect. You got me a date with Lori. I'm going on that date. And Perfect kind of disagrees with that. And I think he's, like, defensible in that. It's like, well, you didn't do this, Adam Prime. You don't get to step in here.
But hold on, Brian, he's him. Are they different? Do we care? Does a clone have less agency and worth and right to all of the pleasures of real life that Adam Prime does?
No, see, that's what I mean, is I think Perfect deserves to go on the date. I don't think Prime deserves to take this from Perfect. Perfect was the one who asked her out. I think Perfect should be the one who gets to go on the date.
So you think Perfect is a full and complete person who quote unquote deserves something more than just being a benefactor to his
clone master? Are you saying that that the offshoots are less deserving of personhood, Dan?
Well, no, it doesn't really answer those questions, does it? I don't know.
No, it doesn't. It does not. And I don't know if Mickey 17 does either.
It certainly addresses it more, but I don't know. I kind of feel like set up Perfect to be like, hey, we're doing this for me, so you're gonna go do this thing and it's for me, like you're a clone of me. I don't know. I see it from both of their perspectives too. I mean, I guess you're right. Like Adam Perfect, sure, he had the audacity, the bravery, the suaveness to ask out the girl, and she said yes. But didn't she think that she was going to be going out with Adam Prime? Or did she only do it because of the actions of Adam Perfect? And if they're really the same person, does it matter?
Right. All of those are good points. I still think, like, if you have created this other person, that is as much a person as you are. It's like your child or something. But the way that it shakes out is that now it's Adam Perfect is like surveilling this date that Adam Prime is on. And Perfect set it up. So it's like at a fancy restaurant. It's like, okay, it's the kind of thing you would wear a suit to. You know, dress up. Perfect's got buttons on his shirt. But this doesn't vibe for Adam Prime and Lori. And Adam Prime says, let's get out of here. We'll just go over to the water park. And so they go over there and hang out, and it's working well. And that then has Perfect, like, pulling his hair out. It's like, no, this is wrong. He shouldn't be doing it this way.
But here's where it gets messy again, because Adam Prime's version of the date ends up going well. So maybe it should have been Adam Prime's date all along.
Right. Yes. Remember, it's in the end, be yourself. Your complicated, multifaceted self. Now that Vance has been, like, terrorized, the water park manager needs a new featured act for this Splashapalooza event. And now Magic Mitch becomes important. They give something for the uncle to do. And the act that he ends up putting together, so like various characters become aware gradually that there's a bunch of Adams running around. It's not just one guy, there are copies. And when Mitch finds out about it, he's like, oh, perfect, now I have a magic act. Like, what would he have done if he didn't have this? I guess just a lame conventional magic act.
Well, like I said, he's kind of like Job from Arrested Development because he's a bad magician. And then, yeah, so, and it's his cloning bed. So I guess it never really addresses, does he know it's a clone machine?
Great point.
I thought that was going to be a twist. It's like, that's how he does all his magic. Like, I'm about to spoil a movie. Like, it's like the end of the Prestige. And that's going to be the twist. Is like, that's how he does all his magic. Oh, he pulls a bunny out of a hat. It's because he's cloning the bunny and there's another one in the hat. Ha ha ha. But like, it kind of sets that up, but doesn't actually pull that twist.
Yes. I was thinking exactly along those lines that, okay, we have this reveal that the thing that he's got in his truck is not a tanning bed. It's a magic cloning machine. And it, in fact, comes with all this documentation and, like, behind-the-scenes DVDs talking about how it is a magic cloning machine.
Yeah, there's, like, big warnings on it. You just had to rub off the dust. How could he have not known this?
He must know this. Otherwise, why would he have it? And, yeah, what has he used it for? What would he intend to use it for? All unanswered. But this big act that he pulls off is, yeah, Prestige style, have Adam popping out of a big cabinet. And then there's multiple of him. By the way, I liked the soundtrack in this movie. They had, like, some big needle drops, although they were, like, covers, like, sung by some group other than the iconic group, but still well-known songs. And during the magic act, it had the song, Abra, Abracadabra, I want to reach out and grab ya, which I think it's like White Horse or something. I should look up who the band is, but...
Is it Steve Miller Band, or is that a different Abracadabra?
That's it, Steve Miller Band. You're correct. Here, I think, performed by somebody else, but that's like a classic of Halloween playlists. Like, if you're gonna build a playlist that's more than just Monster Mash and Thriller, and you're gonna go a little deeper, the next tier of the iceberg is Abracadabra by Steve Miller Band.
Okay. I don't know where to put this, but this is where I noticed it, so I'll just put it here. During this magic show or maybe it was a different magic show that he was doing. I don't know, but it was one of the times that we see him doing magic, and Adam says, "Tough crowd," to him, and I had subtitles on, so I watched this movie in a gray area corner of the internet, which it's probably not even gray, but you know, that's how I find many movies. And yeah, it had subtitles. I'll just turn on the subtitles. Why not? I pretty much always watch movies with subtitles these days, unless I'm watching it with my wife, who tends not to like them unless there's like really thick accents involved. But I looked at this, I was like watching very closely and reading the subtitles. Because like in general, as I was watching, I wasn't even really processing the subtitles. But this time I noticed it. And when it said tough crowd, the subtitles said difficult audience. And I was like, wait, what? Tough crowd, difficult. Those are different words that mean similar things. So it turns out my subtitles, I think, were like an auto-translated from a different language's subtitles back to English. So it was like not quite a match. And so I was watching it really closely the rest of the movie. Because I was like, oh, hold on, now I got to see exactly like how off it is. And it was pretty, like, it was enough where if you were just reading the subtitles, you'd be like, I guess a screenplay might say that. But then you hear what it actually is, and you're like, oh, that's just a weirder version of like what's actually in the script. It was like kind of surreal because you would hear a slightly different wording or diction of a phrase in the subtitles. It's like, have you ever done the challenge where like you'll see a chart of words and it says, say the color of the word, not what the word says. So it'll be like the word blue, but it's in red. And you're supposed to say red, and your brain is not good at that. It's used to those things aligning. That's how I felt when I was reading the subtitles in this film.
I like that. I've noticed on some streaming services, they have like crappy subtitles that I would guess are auto-generated. Like sometimes on Disney Plus, there's just like misspellings in, or not so much misspellings, but it'll be like some word that they didn't say that it kind of sounds like the thing that they said, but it's like, it just is different. So I think, at least in some cases, that's something that has fallen out of human influence. It's like they don't actually have a person making the subtitles anymore.
And I know on YouTube, the large majority of subtitles are auto-generated. I mean, even our podcast, if you go on Apple, it's just auto-generated at this point.
Right. If we do a public release of the transcripts, we will proofread. We believe in quality assurance. That's still like a hallmark of humanity. But we also might not do it because I think the auto translate was pretty good and it will serve our purposes. We just won't share the places where it's garbled.
Right.
So the Magic Act is a hit. They have ostensibly saved the park, but this is where Adam Perfect swoops in and like abducts Laurie. There's also this whole plot about, so I guess Adam Prime has decided at this point, okay, I actually don't need the clones. I'm okay just being me. So we'll send the clones back into non-existence. Either they'll like resume being part of my being, like Horcruxes. I was thinking of Horcruxes with this, that they're like parts of the soul.
Yeah, but not complete parts, right?
Right. But they'll cease to exist. But when they go to the tanning bed, they find out that Adam Perfect has taken out like the flux capacitor. The magic tech device that makes it work. He has it, and they need it. And also another rule is that the way that you uncreate a clone is you have to send them through the machine at 37 miles an hour. Like Back to the Future, there's a speed requirement. How would you ever do this with a tanning bed?
I don't know. It didn't make any sense. I mean, it's very clearly, I actually enjoyed that it was riffing Back to the Future because I was like, oh, flux capacitor, yeah. Oh, 80, you got to go 80 miles per hour or whatever it is for Back to the Future.
Yeah, but Back to the Future, it's a car. It's like made to go places.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah,
this is a stationary piece of technology.
Imagine a tanning bed driving down the road with a rocket on top or something.
And so the arrangement that they come to ends up actually working for all those goofy requirements. So Adam Perfect like abducts Laurie and kind of King Kong style, they end up at the top of the highest water slide in the park. And like Laurie ends up dangling off the side and normal Adam's got to go up and save her. And there's this big fight with the Perfect Adam up on top of the water slide tower. And I liked this water slide because there were all kinds of pirate props up at the top. Like the landing up at the top of the flights of stairs had palm trees and coconuts and all this pirate crap. They were like big tentacles sticking up out of the ground. I liked the set design here.
Yeah, I thought this was fun. It actually had me thinking of Pirates of the Caribbean, where they have the ghost sword fight. Because now you got, like, it gives you room to have a sword fight here. Pirate-themed shenanigans, because it's on a pirate water slide.
Right. Oh, you know what? There was a reason why the clones have to go away. It's because they're starting to arbitrarily break down on a deadline, like Back to the Future, or more recently when we watched Ghost Dad.
You know, now that you're saying it, there's a lot of Back to the Future in this. Whoever wrote this movie likes Back to the Future. Because you're right, you have the, oh wait, because yeah, the thing is Adam Prime is going to like disappear. He's going to decompose or something if he doesn't get it.
Yeah, they're all getting rashes. It's kind of gnarly.
There's some gross out humor in this. Like lots of barfs and farts and gross foods and stuff.
The way they find where Adam Perfect has gone. Remember that they share nerve endings. And so Adam's like, kick me in the crotch. And all the Adams throughout the park yell out. So then they are able to find him. That's the payoff, is you get kicked in the balls to find the villain.
Huzzah!
But he's able to grapple. This is like the most hands-on that he gets with the clones when he's fighting with Perfect. And he's able to like knock him down the water slide. And down at the bottom, like Laurie dropped I think they call it the temporal igniter or something, some kind of igniter. Duplex, that makes more sense. It's not time here, it's clones. It's the duplex igniter, drops it down the slide, and the nerd friend down there is able to take it and build it into the end of the water slide so that anybody who falls down the slide gets uncreated.
I will say the one time I really noticed that they that they tried to limit the amount of time you see two atoms on the screen at the same time is this climax. And that was pulled me out a little bit because I wanted to just see a little bit more continuous flow, but they really had to shoot and edit around. Like they probably could have done it. You know that we have seen some of them on frame at the same time, but it seems like for the action and the moving parts of this set piece, they couldn't really support having like full on multiple atoms battling each other and wrestling and stuff. They had to get real clever with the cuts and the doubles.
For sure. But Perfect falls down the slide, and then the other more friendly clones like agree to go through in reverse order, and they all say their goodbyes. And number 2, like the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz, Adam says, "I think I'll miss you most of all." Which, I don't know that there was really anything special about number 2. He was just the first one. He'd been around the longest.
Well, I think that's why. He's the most normal version of him. It's like he represented the possibility of, I can have any version of myself that I want here by cloning. And when you say goodbye to the last piece of that, you're like, well, I guess I'm just me, you know?
Mm-hmm. And number 2 here does have a good line where he says that, like, the clones aren't dying. They're not going to be gone. They're still part of who Adam is. And then all the clones are gone, and Adam and Laurie kiss on the top of this water slide at sunset. And I actually, like, maybe they did this with green screen. I hope it was actually sunset. It's kind of a good vista up on this high water slide at sunset.
Right. Maybe some good matte painting.
Probably not a matte painting, but I wish. If this was like 1959, it'd be a water matte painting.
Yeah. Would you go on this water slide, Brian?
Yeah, it seemed pretty normal. It didn't seem... I guess it was pretty steep at the start. There are some scary water slides out there. The ones that really put me on edge, they've got ones that are like, you get into a bomb bay, like on a plane, and you stand there in this chamber, and then the floor drops away. And those kind of make me sick. I don't know about those. Those are maybe a little too new for an old-timer like me.
The ones that baffle me, it's like they've done the physics to figure it out, but have you seen the ones where they drop you into like essentially a cyclone? And then the cyclone, you kind of fall down the middle of the cyclone. But like it goes from being like a very clear slide shape to you're just going to be in the swirl, like a toilet flushing.
Yeah, it's like a toilet bowl. I've been on some of those.
But to me, I was always like, well, how do you know it's going to work? How do you know you're not going to like face plant into go straight down to the middle? But they've done the physics on it. They know.
And then the next day, so they've had this successful happy end. Adam wakes up and like all these chaotic atoms have been like wreaking havoc in the house. It's been all falling apart. And then when he wakes up, the house is perfect. And so he thinks for a minute, was this all a dream? But no, it's just that Magic Mitch cleaned up and headed out. I guess Magic Mitch has found his like joie de vivre. He's ready to be a better magician. But my question is how? Yeah, maybe he's just going to abuse the machine going forward. Maybe that's the answer.
But he's not. Remember? Because he gives the flux capacitor to Adam at the end. So he can't actually clone. But it's like he kind of did know what it was. It's even more baffling at this point. What's his deal? What's Mitch's deal?
Yeah, what is he going to do?
What's going on with Magic Mitch?
Maybe he's got like a whole Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse full of this stuff. Like, Magic Mitch works at Warehouse 13. He has all the, like, special containment protocol devices. And he's just gonna, he's going to be time traveling next, or there'll be a robot Mitch, or, like, Nutty Professor. He has all the sci-fi tropes.
I think he was just so enthused by getting a positive reaction from the crowd. For, like, he's clearly incompetent at being a magician. He's like, oh, if I'm good, people like me? Yeah, man, I work on my craft. I don't know. That was my reading.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as that. And we'll see how that works out for him. But the parents come home. They're like, oh, the house looks so nice. Everything looks so normal. And they go to the sister's room. And one of the things that the sister does is like jujitsu. She does martial arts. And the parents go into the sister's room. and she is sparring with a copy of herself. It's the sister and a clone. She used the machine before it was dismantled, and they're fighting each other. And Dan, I would imagine that your thought process was the same as mine, which is, wait a minute, these clone effects are suddenly way, way better. She's got her hands all over the other sister. Kicking and punching, they gotta be twins. And yes, indeed, a la the Polonia brothers in Feeders. These ones are twins.
Yep.
You can do a lot more with your clones when you got twins.
You basically nailed what my thoughts were like, whoa, this is cool all of a sudden. But yeah.
And that's Splitting Atom from 2015.
One more thought. One thing that kind of occurred to me just as we were talking through it, where, okay, there's action at a mall, and you have these figures who don't know how to quite work just right, and you have someone, in fact, a small group of people, trying to corral them for a big show at the climax. Well, hold on then. That's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Brian. Got some of that in there. And it's likely that somebody who's a fan of Back to the Future is a fan of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So I bet whoever wrote this, I should look up who the screenwriter is, was also pulling from that as well.
Great point. It made me kind of want to watch Rufus. Watch this kid in other high-concept antics. Mickey 17, meanwhile, is brand new. I don't know how much we want to go into spoilers. Probably we'll take the usual route and spoil it. So just, listeners, be warned. You know, cut out now if you want all the secrets preserved. But there are some twists and turns, and it's like it's not always the same kind of movie. It's not always about one thing. It has a couple ideas that it wants to riff on.
So how much Bong Joon-ho have you seen, Brian?
Just Parasite in this one.
So I've seen now, I guess, 5 out of his 8 movies. And I think in general, he's known for like basically playing in multiple genres, both at the same time, but also like different parts of his films. Like he'll have abrupt tone shifts and like genre shifts throughout his films. Like in Parasite, we talked about that. Like there's a sequence where it's kind of just this satire, almost a farce, and then it turns into this thriller, you know? And I definitely agree that that's going on here. So I think that's kind of, I read one review say this is the most Bong Joon-ho, what is it? Now I can't say it. Bong Joon-ho. This is the most Bong Joon-ho movie. Not the best Bong Joon-ho movie, but the most Bong Joon-ho movie.
It takes place in 2054, which is not that far away. Like, a lot has happened in the next, 25 years.
Not plausible. Yeah. We're going to be looking back on this in 2054 and saying, you got it wrong.
Because already by this point, humans have colonized a faraway planet. Like, something that's not in our own solar system. So who knows where this is, but it's like Pandora and Avatar. Except instead of being a nice planet full of jungles and sexy aliens, it's full of ice and furry mammoth tardigrades.
Yeah, they're roly-polies, but big.
Yeah. This planet is called Niflheim, which from Norse mythology was sort of a hell. It was an afterlife. So it was ruled by a goddess named Hel, and it was just where souls went that did not die gloriously. So it's like if you die a glorious death in battle, you go to Valhalla, but otherwise you're going to go to this place that's called the Realm of Mist in Niflheim. So this is not subtle. Nothing in this movie is subtle. Because we've got a guy who goes to this planet to die inglorious deaths. Robert Pattinson is the star, and he plays a character named Mickey, who is this lower class, downtrodden guy, and he's run into debt, and so he signs up to be part of this mission where he's going to be an expendable, which tech in this near future has enabled copies to be made. Basically, you can have your consciousness and all your DNA and everything, your life state, your save state, recorded to a hard drive. And then if you die, they can 3D print you out again.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting approach to cloning because it's not, I mean, it's sort of really cloning. I guess it is, but it's like photocopying almost. It's like, it's not how you normally think about cloning. I've thought about this concept before and read about this concept before as like a possible mode of teleportation, you know? So it's like what a teleporter would do is basically scan you, then kill you, then transport you to another machine and print you out, you know?
Right, so very much like The Prestige. And they even use some of the same type of dialogue where he's like, but if you stayed alive, it would be like you'd been alive the whole time. You know, it's like your consciousness continues into this copy that's made, but still one of you is dying.
And it is insufficiently well defined where you're going to be asking a lot of questions. I don't know if it was you or my brother pointing it out, but like, okay, if it comes from like this hard drive and they scan it once a week, and it's not like he would have the memories up until he died, right? So like it would only have it up until his most recent scan. So there's a lot of play of like, what did you do right before? What was it like when you died? And the weight of that question is given much consideration. But like, if I understand the rules, it has a very clear answer. He's like, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't have memories leading up to that.
Yeah. It seems like you could do like a drone, have it like, you know, Bluetoothing to the drive, continually updating.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Wi-Fi sync. Yeah.
But also this whole movie has a vibe that's like a surreal comic vibe to the sci-fi. And I was really thinking of 12 Monkeys and Terry Gilliam.
Mm-hmm.
The way that this whole setup is, because so they call this thing that's recording the memories the brick, which, yeah, you hear like on a film set they call batteries for the cameras bricks, or you hear hard drives called bricks. But it's a literal brick. Like it's a red stone brick, like would go into a building and just also happens to be a hard drive.
And one thing that I think is worth noting is that it's obviously directed by Bong Joon-ho, who's Korean, who speaks Korean, and he's like semi-fluent in English. Like if you ever hear him give award speeches, usually what he does, like for example, when he won Best Picture or maybe it was Best Director, if you go and watch it, he'll like kind of alternate between speaking in English and then speaking in Korean, but has a translator with him who then recites the translation. But this is an English language script, and he's done those before, but he's always had a co-writer. So this is his first one that does not have a credited co-writer. I'm sure he had people help him a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the quirks of the language are just because it was written by someone who English is not their first language. I never felt like it was like bad. It was more just strange. There were just idiosyncrasies to it.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if like brick, if like, I don't know, maybe in Korean, the word for battery and hard drive are like brick or like related to the word brick or something like that. And that's something that didn't quite convey in English because I was a little baffled by that one too.
It's got the same idea from Parasite, possibly from other Bong Joon-ho films, that there's class pressure. There's an underclass, and everything is terrible for the underclass, and the whole thing is that, I mean, that's the springboard. It's like, that's the jumping off point. All the other stuff only happens because it sucks to be poor.
Right. Yeah, I think the two themes that Bong Joon-ho is most known for and appear in some combination in all of his films are, one, it sucks to be poor in capitalism, and two, we must protect nature and particularly animals within nature because they are vulnerable. And if you use those as kind of the two main thrusts of a Bong Joon-ho film, it's easy to see why someone would call this the most Bong Joon-ho film, because it's basically like those two themes on high concept steroids.
Oh, yeah. I was looking for a way to concisely summarize the film, and I think you just did it, because it's those two ideas are like the two halves of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Also, though, the being poor sucks, and it will lead you to desperation, which will have you committing any manner of desperate act. Like, that's also the plot of Squid Game, which is the other piece of Korean media I've consumed. And so I just wonder, like, is that what everything coming out of Korea is about? I guess there's also K-pop, which might be about something different. I haven't listened to much of that.
I think that's known for being like frothy and low substance.
Right.
Don't think they're doing detailed class commentaries in that one.
But it certainly seems to be on their minds.
But I kind of like how this literalized the idea of it sucks to be poor, because, you know, we talk about in capitalism, the working class gets exploited by the upper class, and like essentially their labor and efforts and exertion becomes the wealth of the upper class. And here that's like literalized to a horrifying degree. Like, he literally dies on behalf of like doing stuff for the upper class, and his body, it's like some of the funniest laughs are when indignities are placed upon his body very casually by people who are of an upper rung to him.
Right. At the same time, this would be really, really useful. I mean, think about it. It's like there are kind of people who do extreme jobs, and because of what they do are able to like advance society. You know, he's kind of a guinea pig. So if you broaden it to think about like animal testing, then this is going on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you learn about what is poison, learn about how does this environment affect a living thing. It's like a lot of this testing happens in real life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is like, exactly. So one of the main uses of the various Robert Pattinson clones are, and in case this, the trailer might even give this away. The reason he's Mickey 17 is because he's the 17th version, right?
Right.
So one of the like ways that the other Mickeys died is like they had to test vaccines on him for like the toxic viruses that are in the air in Niflheim. And so we see like him suffering these horrible things from both the virus and the side effects of the vaccines.
Yeah, so it's like make the environment more survivable for the other humans. He's the canary in the coal mine. Send him into all the hazardous areas first, and then the other ones know what they have to do to stay alive. And the movie kind of jumps around in time a little bit. Like what starts the story off, the Act 1, it's like the inciting incident, but it takes a while to happen, is that on one of his missions out onto the ice, Mickey falls into a crevasse, and then he's down there, and he has this shitty friend played by Steven Yeun, who is all over the place these days. Steven Yeun is really killing it. He's got a big career. But he's like, hey man, my rope isn't long enough to get down where you are, and they'll just bring you back anyway, so bye.
But he's also kind of got a point. I was like, I get the reasoning. It's like, if you die, you're done. If he dies, hey, I'll see you tomorrow, you know?
Right. I agree. Is like, there are advantages. As much suffering as Mickey has to do, he's also immortal. It's like, he'll be back.
And that's a really good point, because that's kind of the flip side of like, oh, he's throwing, his body is suffering for the upper class. Is like, okay, the flip side is he never ages. He's immortal. He's got the fountain of youth. It's just like, it's like a be careful what you wish for thing. But the film didn't really play up the irony of that. You know, I kind of thought there was some missing irony in like, hey, you get to live forever, and every day you're in the body that you had when you're 30 years old, you know? There's no reason that this needed to stop ever. Like, you could be doing this for 1,000 years, you know? Be in your physical prime for that long.
Right. There could be worse things than being in this situation.
Which is what a lot of people would want. I personally wouldn't want that. Like, I think the human lifespan is the correct length. If anything, it's too long. But, like, I kind of get that people are afraid of death and oblivion, and this would be an appealing thing.
Mm-hmm. And also, while he's down in the hole, he gets attacked by these, like, tardigrade roly-poly creature things that live on the planet. Although, it turns out they're actually friendly. Another Sid analog from Toy Story. It's like the toys, the monster toys, they look scary, and they rush out and attack, but it turns out that they're helping. They're not vicious. They are nice monsters.
And this was another thing I thought was a little undersold. Like, I kind of assumed that was just going to be the twist. I was hoping there was going to be a second twist. Like, oh, wait, they actually do eat humans for breakfast, you know? Because it was like pretty obvious that it was going to do we don't actually see them attack anyone, so maybe they're actually good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, not too super innovative, but what I liked is that so they help him get back to his base, and he walks in, and sure enough, they've already moved on. They've already made Mickey 18. And up to this point, I was afraid. I was like, well, maybe we'll never get more than one Robert Pattinson at once, and it won't be good with Splitting Atom. But luckily, we do. We have more than one at a time. Also, they kind of have different personalities.
Right. They have more different personalities than I would expect. And I was actually debating offline with my brother when we were driving home how on purpose this was and like how well developed this idea was. I thought it was not very well developed. I didn't get why they were so different.
Right, because they kind of talk about that like his consciousness carries on, so it doesn't make a lot of sense that they would act different. But number 18 is like the alpha Pattinson. He's like aggressive and kind of mean, whereas Mickey 17, who we're with most of the time, is like soft-spoken and meek.
Yeah, kind of clumsy a little too. Yeah.
And they have like different voices that he's doing too.
Oh, some great Robert Pattinson voices in this. He's doing a voice, Brian.
Yeah, it had me actually thinking of Swiss Army Man, where you've got this British actor who's doing kind of a weird, goofy voice as like an expendable American. You know, in Swiss Army Man, he was actually a corpse, and here he's like a guy who repeatedly becomes a corpse.
Yeah.
But like the voice that you put on is like this kind of spacey, otherworldly version of an American accent.
In I Think You Should Leave, the sketch show, one time the Tim Robinson, he'll say, "Don't do the voice," and that's kind of what I was thinking when he was pulling out his crazy thing. He's like, he's doing the voice.
And there's a flashback that talks a little bit about, so yeah, like this is the next logical use of this technology is, why would you just use it once at a time? You could use it many times. You could have a bunch of Robert Pattinsons or Adams running around. So why don't you just do that? And there's like this little side story about how the person who invented the tech was using it to commit crimes. Have himself in one place to be the alibi, and then the other one's running around doing crimes. And so basically they outlawed this, and it's forbidden. It's not allowed on Earth. But Space Trump has lobbied to let this experiment continue in outer space with kind of the proviso that with this expendable setup, it'll just be used one at a time. It's not really duplicates. It's not really Splitting Atom. It's just one at a go.
But that's the design, at least. And I thought this was kind of interesting because it's like what do you call it? When you're in the ocean in a place that's not owned by any country.
International waters?
Yeah, it's kind of like the space version of international waters. It's like, well, we can't really stop you. Once you're off Earth, you know, okay, you can make clones because you're not in the Earth jurisdiction anymore.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, again, it's kind of like animal testing. It's like in a extreme scientific environment, there's at least an argument for it. It's like it may be unethical, it's complicated, but you have like a justification of a kind.
But let's talk about Space Trump, Brian.
Okay.
So Space Trump is played by Mark Ruffalo. Surely, listeners, you know who Mark Ruffalo is. He's been in 100 things, but maybe his most famous is he's Hulk from the MCU. But he's doing full-on Trump. His supporters have red hats. He's doing hand things. He's doing the voice, too.
He has, like, veneers on his teeth.
The worst veneers. They're, like, 3 sizes too big. It made me nauseous to look at his veneers, Ryan. They're, like, they're so obnoxious. And, yeah, he's got a cultish following to the point that people were calling it like some reviews were calling it, it's like a church. But
I think they say church. Well,
Do they say that?
yeah, they say church multiple times. So it's like, again, going off Wikipedia, which is about as deep as I usually go into the research, Bong Joon-ho claimed this is not any one particular politician. But yeah, they've got the red hats.
It could be any right-wing politician who leans on the Christian ethos while still being hypocritical, who has veneers and weird hair and uses a weird voice and hand things and manages to get a cultish following and is currently in power. It could be literally any of those, Brian.
But yeah, like the religion is very much an element of this, and they're talking about the church and like singing hymns and things. So it's almost like a little more Handmaid's Tale than Trump is at the moment, at least.
Yeah, but I think he's like playing up that the right like leans on religious imagery and religious unity and like God is on my side spirit to guide their decisions and like market their decisions, you know? So it felt pretty explicitly political to me.
Oh, absolutely. I thought it was way too on the nose and ham-handed and hitting you with a hammer.
The one that really struck me that I actually thought this was kind of funny and clever is like, they're like adamantly they call it multiples. If there's like more than one of you at a time, that like they define their entire philosophy around the multiples. But meanwhile, the people who are come out of the cloning process, they just treat like trash. And to me, this was like very cleverly a mirror of the abortion debate, at least the way that the left portrays the right on the abortion debate. I mean, I don't want to talk about what my personal perspective is on all these things, but I thought it was a lot of it is very heavy. I mean, it's basically is just about U.S. politics is kind of what I thought, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty thinly veiled.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of fun had with, now we've got two Robert Pattinsons. They like fight over his girlfriend. And there's like a challengers scene where she says, no, I'll just take you both. But pretty soon there's like various pivots and twists. And he gets, so it's been set up that like every so often, I don't know if it was weekly or monthly, Space Trump has a special dinner with a chosen member of the crew. So they're on this ship. It reminded me of the ship in WALL-E, where it's almost like a space cruise ship that they're on. I don't know. And they've just got this like little crew, and they're going to be there for a long time. So they kind of have like these social activities. And one of them is you could be the captain's guest at this special dinner. And he gets invited there by a guy in a pigeon suit. And I don't think that was ever explained.
Yeah, what was the deal with this? I was trying to place this one, like, okay, where is the parallel to this in Trump world? And I couldn't place it.
Yeah, I thought I thought he would have like some kind of a mascot or something, but it never is explained. This guy just has a pigeon suit.
That felt Terry Gilliam-esque to me.
Yeah. And so this scene, though, the dinner scene, was my favorite scene in the movie. I loved this scene. And it felt the most Gilliam to me, because what turns out is that even here at this dinner, he's still the subject of scientific tests. Mickey is still being experimented on, even in this special honored situation, because like halfway through the dinner, he starts projectile vomiting and just screaming in pain. And the little cadre of goofy scientists come out and they're like, oh, sorry, Captain Trump. We've been, we were testing chemicals in the meat.
Yeah, so that was why he had the dinner the whole time, is like to try the new synthetic meat compound on him and see if his digestive tract dissolves. And it turns out it does dissolve. So now he's like writhing on the ground.
And yeah, like in the midst of this, the Space Donald and Melania starts singing a hymn, and so he's rolling around on the floor screaming, and then the scientists join in on the song. It's very cartoony. It was very zany. The
one thing that didn't register as Trump for me is that he's like manipulated by his wife, who's Toni Collette, a great actress, of course, and This was almost more like Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton dynamic to me, where it's like she's accused of being the manipulating one, the power hungry one secretly, and just kind of uses the man's front as the way that she kind of gets her power. And he's got like dementia or something like that. He's like never quite clear what's going on. He's very confused all the time.
I think you're right, actually. And the wife is obsessed with sauce. And that was the case where I was wondering, okay, what is this supposed to translate as?
Yeah.
Like, what word were you looking for? Because there's a ton of thematic importance on sauce. And I was thinking, like, okay, well, it's essence. It's that the upper class can't take things at face value. They don't take base elements. It's got to be refined in some way. It's got to be concentrated. It's got to be made elevated and more extreme in some way. It's like a veneer that takes you away from reality.
Right.
But also it's just kind of a funny word.
Yeah. There's also a space drug. I forget the name of it. It's got some technobabble name. And it's kind of like Dust in Dune, but it's also not quite that. It's also just cocaine separately. But it like makes you act horny and weird.
So Mickey 18 takes that stuff, and that's one of the ways that sets him apart from Mickey 17. He's like, man, I don't do that stuff.
Yeah. But I'm completely with you. I would extend it from like basically when the two clones first meet, Mickey 17 and Mickey 18, like past the dinner to the event that you're probably going to describe here in a moment, is the best part of the film. I was like turning my D-Box up to max and vibing along and like pounding the chair laughing. I was having a really good time during this segment. This kind of reminded me of like the whole thriller segment of Parasite, but like comic in tone with this sci-fi bent. So it's not like, because it's kind of in these confined spaces with these characters who have like these distinct physical goals, constantly getting in each other's way and messing each other up and trying to like conceal what the other is doing. And it's just very tightly blocked and designed set pieces, precisely engineered. And I was just laughing. It's very funny and strange too.
Yeah. And at one point he like confronts the jerk friend, Stephen Yeun. And it's like one of the Mickeys hates him and the other Mickey is trying to save him. And they keep like coming through a door into the room, and so like one is fighting him and then will get pushed out of the room, and then the other Mickey will come in and be trying to help Stephen Yeun. And the way that it's staged is like Stephen Yeun keeps falling in a hole, and so he's just confused because he thinks there's one Mickey. That was kind of executed well. I liked that.
Right. And the tension, I don't know if we've said this explicitly, is that if anyone discovers that there's two, then the protocol is if you ever accidentally get multiples, the entire line is eradicated. It's been soiled. It can no longer be cloned and replicated. It's breached the barrier of ethics, this arbitrary line of ethics that have been drawn. And now cloning is no longer okay. So that is how you get oblivion, is if there's multiples, because now they kill you and they wipe out your memory, the thing that they clone you from, like the brick or whatever. So that's the whole tension too, because... And this interlocks in with not just the dinner, but like this love triangle thing that's going on. Because now one person finds out, is like, oh, I'm going to go tell them. But now the Mickey's, but also the other lover is like trying to stop it. And it's all very well designed, at least during this stretch.
Right. It's odd because he's got this one girlfriend that he was with before, an African-American lady named Nasha. And so for a while, it's like the Zendaya thing where she's got both of the Mickeys. But then there's this other character named Kai who starts flirting with original Mickey 17. And so it's like open to the possibility that, oh, one Mickey for each of them. But this character Kai is also a lesbian. So maybe she's bisexual.
I think that's the implication. She swings both ways.
Okay. And then, yeah, briefly, like the briefest of moments, Trump is like, oh, you're the perfect woman, Kai. You will be our breeding stock for the colony. And that doesn't really go anywhere. Like, nothing happens with that. It's just an awkward beat.
There's a lot of stuff in this movie that doesn't go anywhere. To me, that's playing on the whole thing where Trump gathers attractive women around him, but always like belittles them in different ways. Like the press secretary, he'll like you until you do something bad, and then he'll toss you out or whatever it is. And it's always attractive women when he does that, you know. But and I think that's just a classic sci-fi trope. You're right. That's very Handmaid's Tale. That moment. There was one thing that I just kept thinking was going to come back, and then there's maybe a hint of it at the end, but it's very indirect, is Mickey has this weird connection to the person who introduces him as a clone. And I was like, when is she going to come back? Who is she actually a clone of? Like, this is setting up some big twist. Do you remember this woman, Brian? Who...
Was this the scientist lady with the big glasses?
Yes.
Yeah. So they also, have like a connection.
And then there's like a thing where like they touch each other and he gets like a weird flashback, like a deja vu thing. I was like, what is this going to be? But it doesn't get an explicit payoff. I think they were there's like an ending dream sequence where I think they were kind of referring to it, but it's seems like wasted potential. There's a lot of threads in here that just kind of fizzle.
Yeah, I agree. Because the next thing that happens, so hearing about the experimentation on him at the dinner makes Mickey 18 mad. And he's like, well, I'm going to kill Space Trump. And Space Trump does this weird photo op thing where he's got a rock from the surface of the planet. And he's like, I'm going to carve everybody's name on this, and they'll all know that we were the founders. But then as he starts carving the rock, the critters come out. They call them creepers, and they're like little ones. They come in all sizes. And so these little creepers come out, and the result is that the vengeful Mickey pulls out his gun like at the same moment that the aliens come out. And in this scuffle, the Space Trump gets injured just a little bit, though. He gets one side of his face cut.
Yeah. Oh, nicked in the side of his face with a stray bullet. I wonder what this could be. He poses with his fist up in the air.
And so the whole like third act of the movie is about these aliens, these creatures that aren't actually harmful, but now that there's been this confrontation, the crew, Space Trump and his elite officers on the ship are anti-alien. They want to exterminate the aliens, and it sets up this like alien war.
Right. And I haven't seen Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar, but I was kind of getting that this is the vibe of it, where it's like the protagonists align themselves with the aliens, and that puts them at odds with the human leaders.
Exactly. So it's been said countless times, but it's really true that Avatar is Pocahontas, is Fern Gully, is Dances with Wolves, where you've got a human who experiences a love connection with somebody in this like native society, and it's like, well, I hate my own kind now.
Right. And this one, it's not a love connection. It's more like you're not just a bug that needs to be squashed connection.
Right. It's more like authentic empathy.
Well, yeah, because one of the big one kind of saves him. That's why he's able to survive, right? Be Mickey 17 still alive. And so it's like a life debt too. It's like, oh, you didn't murder me, so I'm going to make sure they don't murder you.
Yeah. And he also finds that they can talk. So these are like a sentient species, not just animals.
I was thinking of Mars Attacks at that moment, Brian, because they like, oh, we figured out how to translate it. Whereas like in Arrival, the whole movie is, can they figure out how to translate it? But it's just like a cut between scenes.
Right. The scientist girl with the glasses is like, here you go. This will let you talk to them. And the language that they speak reminded me of the penguins in March of the Penguins, where it's mostly just like, "Arr!"
Yeah, how could there be sufficient subtlety in the noises here to convey the richness of spoken language?
But they send the Mickeys out to like interface with the creatures, and this was so messy because like different characters want different things from the Mickeys, and it was kind of all just arranged so that we could have the ending that we ultimately get. But it was like, I would think that what would serve Space Trump better would be like, don't send them out there. Because we've kind of established that the Mickeys are complicated and have their own ends. It's like, just keep them in your dungeon and just release the special nerve gas now. If what you're trying to do is kill the aliens, just do that. Don't beat around the bush. Just act.
Yeah, it's all kind of confusing. Like this construction where now Space Trump's going to go out and make a speech to show that he's the leader, but also he's secretly trying to exterminate him. And it's like, I didn't quite follow all of it. It moves very quickly, and then they change direction with it a scene later.
Yeah, and it's like the scientist girl is like, okay, well, when you go out there, you can talk to the aliens. And the first lady of space says, well, when you go out there, you can harvest pieces of the aliens for rare sauces.
Shut up about the sauces.
What is happening here?
What's so great about the sauce?
Yeah, and then Trump ends up out there with them, and the final beat is so that one of the babies, one of the little aliens is still alive on the ship. They have the girlfriend bring that baby out to have peace with the aliens. But then also while all this chaos is going on, Mickey 18 blows up Space Trump. Right.
So he sacrifices himself because Space Trump has these buttons that would blow up either of the Mickeys, but he doesn't use them for reasons that are unclear, even when things are going south. And then Mickey 18 hits the button that blows up Mickey 18. So there's now just one Mickey left. It's Mickey 17, and Space Trump gets blown up. And now everybody is instantly okay with the roly-polies. Oh, yeah, they need to, like, subdue Toni Collette as well. I forgot.
Right, and that jumps forward a bit, and, like, now we've got Space Kamala.
Yes, a Space Democracy and Space Kamala, yeah.
Yeah, Nasha at her rightful place as...
I didn't place the Kamala connection, but that is kind of interesting. It's like, not the white fat man with the veneers, but the black woman who is a little bit progressive, but also a little odd.
Right. And they hold like a funeral for the 3D printer or something. It's like this ceremony where they abolish the use of the 3D printer.
So there's this, I mentioned it before, this dream sequence near the end where Toni Collette is back alive and she's using the clone machine to make a new Space Trump. And I was like, okay, I was waiting for a twist. If you have a clone machine that could clone anyone, surely there are secret clones we don't know about.
Exactly. It's like the ending of Splitting Atom, where, oh, well, the sister used it while it was here. Like, we've taken it apart, but who knows who used it in the interim?
But it's just a dream sequence. At least that's what we're led to believe. And he, like, wakes up. He's like, oh, no, it's gone. I'm going to blow up the machine. And I thought this was a missed opportunity. I wanted more. If you're going to do clones, do clones. Go in, you know?
Yeah, I took it as real when I saw it, but I guess we are meant to believe that it was a dream. Because right before this, there's like a jump forward in time. So I thought this was just something that had happened in the in-between time, that he had stumbled across them trying to make this clone and put the kibosh on it.
I think there's some dialogue in there where it's like, oh, actually, wait, it can't be you. You're not really alive. And she's like, oh, really? And then like blood drips out of her clothes. And then he wakes up suddenly. So I took it to be definitely a dream sequence, but I wish it had been a little more ambiguous. You know, I think that would have been interesting.
I think you're right. But that's Mickey 17. So the seat effects, I thought it was craziest when during this alien battle, they like the roly-polies form into like living tornadoes. They're all piling up and spinning around. And one of the tornadoes like scoops up one of the Mickeys. And when he got grabbed by all the rolling buffalo guys, the seat was like, ugh! It really jerked you.
Yeah, it used the full extent of the tilting machinery. I will say, even though it kind of turns a little more generic as it gives up the clone comedy aspect and leans more into like a battling on behalf of the aliens, I did think the aliens were cool. They were well designed, and like I liked the effects of them. They had a slight uncanniness about them, but like it weirdly it reminded me of like puppetry. I'm pretty sure it was all CGI, but it was emulating the feeling of looking at good puppetry. I thought it did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, I agreed. It felt like a thing that could be alive, but was also unearthly. It was a good balance.
Yeah.
And like a good mix of elements from different creatures to buy that, okay, well, this is a new thing, but we can also kind of comprehend it. And so, Dan, are we ready to say, is it good?
Let's do it, Brian. So I'll talk us in. Is It Good is our signature section where we each give the movie a rating on our 8-point goodness scale, ranging from very not good, which is a 1 out of 8, to our masterpiece rating, toward a good, which is an 8. Is Splitting Atom from 2015 good? And for me, this is either going to be a 4 with big smiles or a very conditional 5, which is that, like, if you watch it from the perspective of I am looking for a movie that is aimed at tweens but has fun premise and shenanigans, this more or less fits the bill. I think I'm going to land on like a high-end 4. Like, to me, that's kind of where I put... what's the one that we always reference but we haven't actually talked about on the pod? The Max Keeble one.
Yeah, Max Keeble's Big Move.
Yeah, it's kind of in a similar tier to Max Keeble's Big Move, which is I gave a 4 when I wrote about it on my review site. And I don't like it as much as Snow Day, which I gave a 5. It's got some of the same strengths and weaknesses, too much fart stuff. Kind of annoying, but I think I like that it unlike what we were saying about Mickey 17, it's the clone movie. It's going to be doing clone stuff, and it's going to be doing clone stuff, but pulling from like, oh, we're going to have a little bit of Back to the Future in there. Oh, we're going to have a little bit of Bill and Ted's in there. Oh, the showdown's going to be Adam versus Ultimate Adam, who's a clone, and we need to figure out how Adam wins that. And also that's a metaphor for how he needs to realize that he can accept who he is. And kind of pulling it off. It's not perfect, but like it's all there and it moves really fast. And I think there's some fun stuff with like the editing and the just the pace of it. But yeah, it's chaotic, a lot of underwritten and undersold stuff. Kind of repetitive with the jokes. But I was cheerful during it, I'll say. I'll give it a high-end 4. What about you, Brian?
Well, as we've talked about it, I think it's raised a bit in my estimation. Because everything that you're saying is right. I do like the idea, okay, well, these are parts of him, and they're all still there, whether he's making clones or not. I mean, the message is, accept that you are a multifaceted being. You contain multitudes. And as you grow, you decide, well, which version of yourself are you going to become? And I think that's realized well. I find Jace Norman pretty annoying.
Is he a full Jansen for you?
There was just so many of him, and it relies on, do you like seeing him make a caveman face and like grunt and stomp around? And then another one of him look inconvenienced by that. Back in the day, as I've been looking through the history of the podcast, getting ready for our spectacular, I was thinking back on trends that used to be common and have become less common in our discussion. And one was early on, sometimes, Dan, you would like rewrite the movie. You would say, movie would be better if it happened this way. And I actually have one for Splitting Atom.
Let's hear it.
Which is that I wish that when Perfect Adam was watching Adam Prime go on the date that he, Perfect Adam, earned, and is like talking with Sheldon, one of the friends, about how this is an injustice. I wish that Perfect Adam had encouraged these two nothing friends to stand up for themselves. That he had said, Sheldon and Danny, you guys only exist to serve Adam. You're only here to like be wingmen and date coaches for Adam, but you're your own people. You should stand up to Adam and live your own lives. Because what we really need to learn is that sidekicks are people too.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one. And so now it becomes a conflict with the buddies too. Like, hey, you're just exploiting us. We can be main characters too.
Right. I would have liked to have seen a little more of that.
Let me throw one more at you that came to me as you were talking, which is what I thought you were going to say for a second. What if Perfect Adam started pretending that he was Adam Prime? And so now, because like pretty much the friends always know which one's real Adam and which one isn't. And the audience knows which one is real Adam and which one isn't. Mickey 17 does a little more with this. You can usually tell who's who, but like people not knowing which one is which is a little bit more of a thing in that. I want to see messing with the audience. Is this real Adam or is this perfect Adam? And how does regular Adam Prime come to accept a version of himself that isn't perfect and maybe stand out by the fact that he's flawed?
So in the end, I'm going to give Splitting Adam a high 3, which is what I gave to Last Day of Summer. It's more chaotic than The Last Day of Summer. It's kind of all over the place. But there are things about it that I liked. You pled your case very well. And I like the soundtrack of Splitting Adam. They got some bangers.
There you go. Now on to Mickey 17 from 2025. This is one where it goes all over the place. And in some ways, I kind of admire it for that. Like, I do things, directors. Shoot your shots, be weird. Throw it all out there, even if it's messy. I'm glad that we have great directors who are taking swings. I still think you could think through your script a little bit more and focus a little more and flow a little bit better. Polish your plot, cut out some of the holes and the lost threads. If you're going to do this kind of sci-fi adventure. Really, if they had just made it less about the aliens and more about clone shenanigans. And what if we got a third Mickey and now they're all trying to cover up and stuff? I feel like there could have been stuff like that would have made it a little more up my alley for like what worked best. So I'm kind of on a high 5, low 6 territory for this one. I gather I maybe liked it a little more than you, Brian. Maybe not, but I'm going to land on a high 5 on this one. Good.
Oh, interesting. Because I'm also going to give it a high 5. I thought you'd get into 6 territory, Dan, because I do think you liked it a little bit more than I did. It was kind of a messy movie, but my feelings are the same as yours. It's just that I just wish they had focused more on the clones. I wish they had made more clones. I wish that was part of like the uprising, was just make a bunch of Robert Pattinson. And I think they should have leaned more into that. Oh, actually, we do have clones of Trump. When he got blown up, it's like, oh well, we just roll out another one because we've got a whole a base of them saved.
Would have been a good twist, yeah. So.
And actually, another movie that I was thinking of ones that we've talked about before, was Robot from 2010, which was, I thought about it more so with Splitting Adam. But in that, he makes this robot that he decides for some reason to look like him. So it's a robot copy of him that basically can do everything really well and is a super-powered version of himself. And then his girlfriend falls in love with the better him that is the robot.
Right.
And so, like, that's kind of the whole Perfect Adam threat.
Good point. Good connection.
And then what happens in that is, like, then the robot starts making additional copies. Mm-hmm. And like, he can form basically Voltrons with himself. And that was something that could have happened. We kind of got that with the buffaloes all stacking up, but it's like, we need to have like 20 Robert Pattinsons standing on each other's shoulders to ride the buffalo swarms.
I mean, your budget's $118 million. Do weird stuff with that. Use all your tools to make cool clone effects. I get why Splitting Adam couldn't have them actually have one Adam sword fighting another Adam, but I feel like if you're Bong Joon-ho, one of the world's great filmmakers working right now, and you have this 9-figure budget, go do something with it,
Well, we did it, Dan. Splitting Adam and Mickey 17. What comes next?
So I think we are going to do our 200th episode spectacular. This is where we look back on the past 50 episodes that took approximately a year. I think I'll check when I published or when we recorded, but it's probably a little more than a year at this point. But, about a year, because we do about one episode a week and it's about 50 episodes. And then we also are going to do some highlights and lowlights of those 50. We have like an Oscars style ceremony. So we hope you'll join us for that. So the next episode you guys will hear will be our spectacular. I'm looking forward to it, Brian.
Yep, I've got my secret envelopes in preparation.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, listeners. And I hope you all enjoy this bloomin' spring.
Thanks, everybody. Join in next time.